Hi, all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy, and the subjects can get saucy. So, if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted chats with some of the most interesting culinary voices in the American South. This region is one of the country's vacation and retirement playgrounds. But beyond the warm weather and beautiful scenery, there's a rich culture steeped in community and often dark and complicated history, and plenty of innovation among the tradition. I'm Stephanie Burt, and I've spent a career covering this region for magazines, newspapers, and websites. And to me, the best introduction to the American South is through its food culture and the growers and makers who make it delicious. I invite you to come on the road with me from the Appalachian Mountains to the clear waters of the Gulf of Mexico and everywhere in between. I'm always hungry for that next bite, thirsty for the next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is supported today by Stolon Food Lab in Charleston, South Carolina. This hidden gem of a space is tucked into a former machine shop just minutes from the hustle and bustle of King Street. The lab is a beautiful, calm oasis, and I'm so fortunate to be working with them to host Southern Fork Test Kitchen experiences. This is a setting that's centered around all things culinary. From testing and workshopping to cooking and chatting over a good meal, Stolon Food Lab is one of the most unique and thoughtful small event spaces in a city known for its events. The Food Lab is filled with natural light, plenty of space to work and mingle, and an aesthetic that will add a relaxed elegance to any gathering. While I can't wait to welcome you into this space, I want you to know it's not exclusive to the trade. Stolon Food Lab welcomes inquiries about how you might be able to host your next gathering there too. Visit stolonfoodlab.com, that's STOLON foodlab.com, to get the conversation started. See you at the lab soon. Charlotte, North Carolina is one of the fastest growing metropolitan cities in the United States. While the city has always looked forward, it was actually founded before the American Revolution, and it was the site of the first U.S. Mint. However, in the past 2 decades, the intense growth and the addition of a light rail system have brought immense changes citywide. In the middle of it all, the Nguyen family has been feeding its community one Bahn Mi sandwich at a time. From homemade beginnings to a cornerstone business of the Asian Corner Mall, Lee's Sandwiches and Cafe now has another new chapter of its own. Tuan Nguyen has taken over the business from his parents and is carrying on their legacy, despite the closing of the mall that is slated for imminent demolition. Lee has a beautiful new streetfront building on Sugar Creek Road, and they routinely sell out of everything they can make. Lee's Bahn Mi No. 6 was voted one of the best sandwiches in Charlotte by QC Magazine. They have been featured in the Charlotte Observer, and the restaurant was the subject of an oral history published by the Southern Foodways Alliance. Welcome to the Southern Fork.
Thank you.
These stools that are very indicative of a market in Vietnam.
Exactly. Usually street food. You'll see them around.
Now, I will tell you that I had such a great meal here, and so that's why I'm back today to chat with you. But what first drew me in, honestly, is your attention to detail in this space.
Oh.
I love this setup, this market setup. I also love the vintage caps
Yeah,
that we're going
appreciate
to
it.
talk
Thank you.
about. The beautiful baskets behind you. It just feels non-contrived, but shall we say the loaded word at the beginning? Authentic.
Authentic, yep.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make it feel like a destination, make it feel homey for a lot of our customers, and especially pay tribute to my parents.
So I came here for all the things, but a lot of people come here for Bahn Mi.
Exactly, Bahn Mi. That's our specialty.
Yeah.
We've done it for over 20 years.
And you've grown up doing it.
Yep. I remember helping my mom in the house kitchen and selling them out of pretty much the back of her trunk.
Really, family restaurants are the backbone of many American immigrant experiences. And, you know, being a child of immigrants, you are straddling this world. But the Bahn Mi is the constant. It's in that space with you.
Yeah, it's growing up, my parents were always working, so they kind of, ingrained that into who I am, I guess,
Yeah. So the Bahn Mi is at its heart a vegetable and meat sandwich.
Yep. A lot of French influence. The French brought over the baguette or bread, and they actually started doing hams and butter. And, with the Vietnamese, it's vegetables and a protein usually.
We have to start with the bread.
Yep.
Because without the bread, it's a different kind of sandwich.
Yeah.
So what do you think makes your perfect bread? Because there are variations of the Bahn Mi within a small continuum, right?
Yes.
So
with our bread, we want it to be light and airy, a little bit chewy. You don't want it to basically be heavy, like a traditional baguette. Like you don't want the crust to be very hard when toasted.
You don't want that thickness.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you want it to be able to have a little bit of tooth, but to really get into the sandwich quickly.
And ours is a hybrid. Usually in Vietnam, it's more of an airy, very, very airy. I guess the crumb inside, there's not much crumb. And then the outside of the crust is very paper thin. Ours is slightly different in a way, but it still has those traits.
Now, did your mom make that in the home kitchen when she was selling them out of the car?
No.
Your parents?
Basically, in the 90s, there was a French bakery in Charlotte. I can't remember the name, but it's probably still around. I haven't been there lately, but we worked with them for a while to come up with a recipe. They were helping the Vietnamese community out also with the French bread. With the recipe, we kind of adjusted it within the 20 years that we've been around. So.
And who is supplying the bread for you now?
It's top secret.
Oh, no.
Everybody asks us that.
Well, I did lay the groundwork. I thought if I chat about this for a few minutes, I'm going to be able to get the answer.
We're kind of tight-lipped again. It's like, I can tell you the bakery, but then I'm not sure if the bakery would keep
Baking
their promise.
Yeah.
To not release her recipe. So it's one of those things where a lot of people ask and will be, it's top secret.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to whisper it.
Yeah.
Top secret. So we have a top secret, but local.
Very local.
Baker.
Been around for a while.
And who delivers.
It delivers.
And so how often do you get deliveries?
We get bread in every week, pretty much every day. We get smaller orders, so if we run out, we run out.
Yeah. On the weekends, you're going to run out. So what's the next element of the sandwich that you feel is important that you have enough stock?
I believe it's going to be your meats. During the weekend, we usually get our Asian community in. A lot of out-of-towners, they're buying it for their family, so we have to keep stock with the Asian meats. Our big seller here is like our lemongrass, so we kind of have to keep that in stock also.
Yeah, lemongrass, so good. So good. And so with this Bahn Mi, your family built a business. They built a life, right?
They basically needed money.
Right.
So they built this business, not only a business, but my mom noticed that there was a need for, I guess, Vietnamese street food. So I wouldn't say created the Bahn Mi, but she kind of established it in Charlotte. We probably started early 90s and went from there.
And so it went from there into across this really broken up parking lot into Tryon Mall that became the Asian food mall, right?
It's we actually had a store before, or a current store now. Again, the sandwiches were sold out of the trunk or to the markets in Charlotte. And then once my parents saved up enough money, we opened up a shop which is still in Charlotte, but we just don't own it. It's Tuan Nguyen Cafe off Central. So, during that time, I was going through school. My parents were busy and they didn't see enough of me, so they sold the shop. And so my mom went back to basically doing nails, and then she missed cooking, and she went right back, and our shop used to be in the rundown mall.
Yeah.
I guess the North Tryon Mall, where you used to hang out, right?
Well, when I was really, really little, it was still the mall era, right?
Yeah.
The 80s.
Yeah.
And I remember that there was a movie theater here on the end.
That's right.
And they had summer movies for kids, and I saw the Robin Williams Popeye movie there.
Okay, nice.
It was a very, very important
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah, underrated. Super underrated. Okay, so I ask a lot of people that have been in this business, you had to make a decision to come into it.
That's right. I actually got my degree in Bachelor of Fine Arts and Graphic Design. I like to do basically artwork and drawing and design work, so I kind of went into that field. Work with Sundrop. My last job was actually with International Paper.
Sundrop is pretty cool.
Yeah, a little big Southern cheerwine.
Hey, Sundrop, you could call me if you wanted. I might answer.
Yeah, there you go. Sponsorship.
I like some cheerwine.
There you go.
Yeah, and so you're doing this graphic design, and there's so much change that's really happening right here because Charlotte, I was such a proponent of the light rail. Yeah. And I still am. Yeah. But it changes a city.
Yeah, it does change a city. Charlotte was already growing because of the banking, but having the light rail, there's, I guess, easier transportation for some people, and it brought everyone to basically center city.
And also, though, everywhere the light rail is, it changes that literal landscape. And so light rail is coming right here.
Yep, literally right behind us, maybe less than a quarter of a mile away.
Right. And so the roads are different. The actual buildings have to be knocked down to build this whole infrastructure. So all of a sudden, your family business, which has been multiple businesses now, is going to have to vacate.
Yeah. So I guess Charlotte likes to destroy a lot of history.
What? I'm not sure about that.
No.
That doesn't sound like a regular thing that Charlotte does.
So instead of reusing the building, they'll end up destroying the building, which the Asian Corner Mall was a big part of the community. I'm not sure why Charlotte keeps building apartments and condos, but the building's going to be knocked down for condos. I guess a lot of people are moving in town. Lots of changes, some for the good. But yeah. So
the Asian Corner Mall was a vibrant part of this community. Can you talk about your experience as a young adult there?
Yeah. Basically it started early 90s, I believe. And it was a place for a lot of the Asian community to basically gather. I remember going to the vet festivals. We would have pageants there, lots of music. It was hustling and bustling. It was like literally the Asian mall to go to, in Charlotte, and the only mall. Growing up, there was like gift stores, DVD stores, and
all the things.
Everything.
Yeah.
But
it was a center of culture.
Yeah. Definitely a center of culture. Again, a place for the Vietnamese community to go to. So
you moved out to the edge of Sugar Creek Road, basically, and this is a new building, and it's beautiful, and it's still the destination. It's just a newer reiteration. So how have you seen that community shift toward you here.
Luckily for us, a lot of our regulars, I would say my parents' regulars, they're still continuing to support us. But with the loss of Asian Corner Mall, there's no center for the Vietnamese community to go to. With Charlotte, there's pockets of Asian cultures, which is really hard. You know, like in DC, you got, I guess, Eden, you know, a huge Asian area. But with Charlotte, it's just pockets. So luckily, we still have our regulars. I wish Charlotte would build another Asian Corner Mall,
or leave the
current one and just make it pretty again.
Yeah.
It was one of my biggest things when the developers purchased this lot and land. I wanted to focus more on community. So I actually asked them, like, hey, can you guys keep it, you know, mom and pop friendly? I guess with like rent, having low rent or stuff like that, where they can actually afford and actually have a community of not just Vietnamese community, but everybody else.
Right. Mom and pop is affordable.
Yeah.
That's what we need, right?
Especially in Charlotte nowadays.
Yes. And in a lot of places in the South and a lot of places nationwide. But I can speak to the South because I travel all around and we're all having these same conversations. And so food actually allows us to build community, right?
Exactly.
And so I have to say your community is diverse and it's also, it spans 2 continents. So I want to ask you, what are the things that you loved when you were a kid that you felt like were yours as a Vietnamese American versus now people like me, a white woman with dimples sitting across from you, feels like she can talk about Bahn Mi.
Yeah.
That's very different than it was in the 90s when you were growing up.
Yeah, it was hard because, you know, again, Charlotte was like really small. There wasn't a huge Vietnamese community. And again, with the pockets of like the Asian communities, we wouldn't really get together until, I guess, That would be like one of the biggest things where people would come into Charlotte and celebrate. I guess that's one thing that I remember.
What time of the year is that festival?
Usually the beginning of the year. So it can either land on between January and maybe early March, depends on the moon. But that's like one thing that I looked forward to when I was younger, and it felt like it was a part of me. Get to see friends that weren't around. Or
did you have foods at home that weren't sold to other people that were just y'all's?
You know, my mom and dad was basically raised in the Delta, especially my mom. She's from the Delta area of Vietnam, but they didn't have much money, so I call it like basically soul food. I always remember having like some type of braised pork belly or fish, cheap's cut up meat back in the day, but now they're a specialty item. Fish sauce everywhere.
Just like spice, fish sauce ages in the fridge.
Yes.
So it actually gets more spicy, more fish saucy the next day.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I think I have it sounds gross, but I think I have a really old bottle of fish sauce that I keep using. But it tastes better. Even with soy sauce, it's like fermenting.
Yeah, so. that natural fermenting.
Yeah.
When did you get interested in food?
Probably in middle school. You know, being around my mom, so I was always interested. She always taught me techniques and just watching her. But like when I remember her name, I took home economics for 2 years. It's Mrs. Newman. And that's when I really got into cooking, I guess. I remember making my first spaghetti meal in the class. I remember baking. I remember sewing. So, which is weird.
Well, they don't have that anymore.
No, not anymore. It's one of those things where I will always remember because she made like a huge thing that's a part of me, you know? So,
right.
If Mrs. Newman, if you're out there, I hope you're listening.
Miss Newman, I hope you listen to the Southern Fork. Yeah, but that's interesting because I think it's wrapped up in your family life. Cooking is wrapped up in your family life and as a daily cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then seeing it from outside and the home economics thing is really what sparked. And then
it was just different, you know, again, like being at home, mom's just cooking. With mom, she likes to control things a lot.
She's still involved.
And she is still involved. it's hard to kind of get your hands into it just because it's her way or no way. So all you can do is just stand back. If she needs you to peel vegetables, that's all you can do. Wash vegetables, but
you better do it the right
yeah,
way.
That's right.
Don't peel too much off.
Yeah.
So where are the places that you feel that you shine here at this restaurant?
Oh man, that's really difficult. Maybe
where you can like play creatively.
Well, opening the shop, coming from, I guess, an art degree, playing with the shop and like decorating was like really nice to kind of get away from the day-to-day of a restaurant life. With my wife's help, we picked out the colors and then like ideas of like saving the Asian Corner Mall sign, and then like thinking back when we first traveled to Vietnam, the small tables, how homey, we wanted to make it nostalgic for a lot of people. Just the design aspect of making a restaurant, designing the restaurant was really nice.
Can we talk about the beer taps then?
Yeah, so during my research, we were thinking about beers that the GIs would drink during the Vietnam War. A little bit of research, we found some old cans that are from eBay pretty much. With old cans, we made them into tap handles. So, Schlitz, Genesee, Black Label, of course, PBR.
Yeah. So, and they all have the old pull tabs.
Yeah.
The square sides.
Yeah, like the old oil cans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're also smaller.
Yeah.
Than our cans.
But they're kind of cool. You don't see those around anymore.
Yeah. No, you don't. No, you don't. But those little details, I think you really hit on something. To be nostalgic. Do you feel a responsibility to carry on now that, because people connect with a part of themselves when they eat your food?
Yeah, I do. Just with the new generation, we're losing a lot of our like culture. Some of our younger customers come in here and they don't know how to speak Vietnamese. It's just one of those weird things. For me, like growing up in America, Vietnamese was my first language. But then as I grew up, I lost that. And I still feel a need that we still need to keep up with those things, even food wise, even like cooking. A lot of the new generations don't know how to cook Vietnamese food, or like, there's fusion Vietnamese food, but what about the traditional stuff? I call it peasant food or soul food. So there's a part of me that needs to keep that going. And then with the decorations in the shop, I want people to feel like, or the culture to see what my parents went through or saw what they grew up with, or, with things that I saw that opened up my eyes when I took a trip to Vietnam.
Can you tell us a little bit about that Vietnamese trip?
The
first time? Because you realize you're American, right? When you land.
Yeah, it was a huge culture shock. What opened up my eyes the most was when we traveled back home to my mom's village, pretty much, or her hometown. During that time, there's nothing but rice fields. So we experienced that, riding on the back of mopeds, going through, they call them roads, but they're literally sidewalks to us, but they're roads. And then you'll see basically the people there drying their rice grains on the middle of the street, just having the moped run over the grains to kind of like break up the shell, stuff like that. The smells, the sounds were so different. It's really hard to explain.
But you felt it.
I definitely felt it.
Yeah. So it's not for words.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's for other sensories. And I think that's always a challenge for me as a food and travel writer, is that I'm trying to quantify through my imperfect language something that isn't about language.
Yeah.
And I think that's where food comes in. It's also the most everyday thing, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people feel like food can't be that significant. Culture can't be that significant because we have it every day. It's just a sandwich.
Yeah.
But I think we feel it when it hits there.
Yeah, I think with food, it really brings everybody together. You don't have to speak the language. If you're enjoying the food and they see that smile on your face or your expressions and stuff like that, they know exactly. For me, especially for my wife was, she was, I guess, a celebrity over there. And it was a huge eye opener for her also. The thing that she remembers the most was driving through the village, and then all these kids would run out of the house and they would wave to her and say, American, American. And it was just something crazy to see. You know, it's just, we don't experience that over here.
Right. So what do you hope? You don't know, but I know your parents had hopes for you. What do you hope that your sons are kind of getting out of this growing up in a restaurant experience like you did?
We try to keep the boys here a lot. I don't care if they don't work, I guess, but at least they experience what goes through. My oldest is 8. He's curious, of course, so he'll go in the kitchen once in a while and see his grandmother fixing something. He'll get his hands cutting carrots and daikons, and it brings up my memories of being his age, being in the kitchen. So it's a good experience for them. I hope that they'll take over the restaurant, but we'll see. You know, it's just a different generation. They want to be YouTube
and that's
streamers.
A long time ahead.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bags of beef jerky to make before then. I was telling you that I bought some last time, and I had these high hopes to actually make something with it, like a papaya salad or to, you know, just do something beautiful with it. I sat at my computer and ate it like I was a pioneer on the trail that needed some protein.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. Sometimes you don't have to make something special.
I know. And I was like, I can't type with this hand because it's got curry all over it. So I've got to just kind of like scroll.
I'll give you enough next time so when you go to the movie theaters, you can actually eat beef jerky there instead of popcorn.
Oh, yeah. That's my kind of movie. That's my kind of movie. Well, it's been such a wonderful experience to get to know you, and I thank Kia Mastriani for introducing us. I don't know if you feel the same way because you kind of freaked out when I called you and said, hey, I want to do this.
I'm a quiet person usually, I guess. Very shy, standoffish. I hate public speaking.
Well, this isn't in public. It's it's just me and a mic.
Yeah.
And it's on a chopstick.
I hate being in the spotlight.
Your food is in the spotlight. Your family business is in the spotlight. And I have to say that, you know, I wouldn't say that you retire when you have something to say, like, please save the Asian Corner Mall, that you actually speak up and say it. Yeah. So I think that's admirable. Yeah. You're just not out here with a microphone like me all the time. But I feel like, you know, this is a new step and a new journey, and it opened around November of last year.
October. We've been open for, what is that, 8 months?
Yeah.
So it's been a rough journey, but I think we're getting there. Losing the Asian Corner Mall, different now. Different.
But we don't know what it's going to look like.
We don't.
So what is making you hungry? What are you interested in right now?
I think keeping my parents' legacy going is my main push or drive, I guess. That, and then I guess supporting my family. Charlotte's losing a lot of like older gen restaurants, and that's one reason where I felt like we kind of need to stick around for Charlotte, not only Charlotte, but for myself and my family.
What's one aspect of this job that you were literally born into that really meshes with a natural piece of your personality?
I think being detail driven and then being really OCD.
Well, great. I'm going to need to ask you to work part-time for the Southern Fork because I'm not.
Yeah. Hey.
And there's a lot that I wish I were detail-oriented and focused on.
It's tough. Some people think it's easy, but then, you know, I guess
we need each other.
Yeah. It's a team effort sometimes.
Well, great. Welcome to my team then.
Yeah. I'll see you at your house or your office.
That's right. Oh, I don't have an office. My office is my dining room table where I'm eating beef jerky. All right. Well, no dining room. I mean, the one table I have where I can eat is what I should say. I will have a dining room one day, though. What is something that's keeping you up at night?
Again, it's the restaurant. I have big shoes to fill, I think. Try to prove myself. My parents, everybody knows my parents. My dad, my mom, my aunt, and you got me. people walk in, who is this guy? So big shoes to fill. A lot of thinking about what's next. How are we going to stay open during this time, I guess, with inflation and being newish to the area, new different demographics. So
well, and it's a new visibility.
Yeah.
I think for both the Vietnamese culture here in Charlotte and also just the larger dominant culture here in Charlotte is able to see you in a way that probably didn't happen in the same way inside the mall.
Yeah, I think they're coming from, I guess, a different outlook, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of people have that same kind of stress, right?
Yeah.
That are
I
in the
think
restaurant business.
I think with the restaurant business or any business, you're always going to have that stress.
Well, I am honored that you allowed me to come in on one of your rare days off to sit with you and chat with you about this restaurant, which I believe is an important cultural touchstone for the Asian American community here. And it was so exciting to read some background and see people like the Charlotte Observer and Charlotte 5 excited that it was going to continue.
Yeah,
and you were bringing that on.
A lot of the publications in Charlotte were happy to see that we're continuing our business. And again, it goes out to my parents, my dad and mom, I guess, creating a culture in Charlotte. Anywhere they go, people really recognize them, especially at Restaurant Depot.
Restaurant Depot.
Yeah, Restaurant Depot or some garden shop or something.
Well, this is my last question, and it is a question I just reserved for Southern Fort guests, and this is my magic picnic basket question. So it's a theoretical question. I actually used to ask about death row meals, and we all talk about this kind of stuff in the business. Those of us that are interested in food as an interest, as an obsession. But I don't believe in the death penalty. So I had to kind of switch around that question over the years. And instead, I want to bring you some things that bring you life. With this basket, I can time travel. I can go back and ask anybody to make one more bite of something you would like. I can cook for a little bit, but I can also source for you. Okay. So I would love to put some things in that basket that just bring you joy. I know it shifts and changes. So what can I bring you today?
I might have to get you to learn Vietnamese cooking.
I'm all for it. Yeah. I love to learn. Yeah. Lifelong learner.
One thing I would actually a couple things, real simple meals, soul food. Basically braised, caramelized catfish in a clay pot.
Oh, that sounds delicious right
it's
now.
Yummy. It's my favorite meal.
With rice?
Rice and just cucumbers.
Oh. Favorite.
Real simple meal. Again, it's just one of those cheap meals growing up that you would always remember.
I will clock in to learn that for you. What else?
Let's see. Probably glutinous rice with black-eyed peas and coconut milk.
It's like a Vietnamese version of Pop and John.
Yeah, or was it arroz con leche?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a lot of Hispanics that come in, and that's something they'll pick up because it reminds them of the, arroz con leche. Hopefully I got that pronunciation right.
Well, you know me, I'm Southern, so I have to Google everything. Great. And what else in there?
Let's see, being in the South, peaches.
Especially this time of year.
Yep. Specifically McLeod's in McBee, South Carolina.
Those are delicious. Yep. Freestone or Kling peaches. Yep. Great. And is there any beverage in there?
Probably a really cold tiger beer with ice.
With ice.
Brings me back memories from our trip to Vietnam.
Yeah, because that beer will get hot fast.
Yeah, it's weird to have a beer on ice, but that's what you need. And then you can drink all day because you're getting hydrated and then getting
it just
tipsy.
Evens out.
Yeah.
It's like, this is exactly the right thing. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, if people want to learn more about
Elise Sandwiches and Cafe.
Excellent. You know where to go. You can go to southernfork.com. I'm going to have links there as well as images so you can see the face behind the voice, which is a second generation with a third generation running around cutting daikon if they feel so desirous.
Marinating pork belly.
Love it. If you like what you hear, there are more than 600 episodes in the archives for you. I am a Charlotte native, fourth generation, and I learned how to eat in this city. I have spent many, many years testing and eating and enjoying, and now I have a new Bahn Mi place, new to me, that's been around for
over 20 years.
There you go. Yeah. One thing that's so cool about this job that I do is that just like you, I can discover things that have been under my nose the whole time.
Yeah, like one place is the Tryon Mall.
That's right.
Who knew it was a Southern fairground that with a racetrack?
I did know that. Yeah.
Which Charlotte should have kept, but they decided to cover it up and build something else on it.
Well, today we're going to celebrate the fact that despite the mercurial way that Charlotte reinvents itself every 20 years, your family remains. So thank you for feeding us well.
Yep. Thank you for having us.
Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. You heard us briefly mention something about the fairgrounds that were on site at Tryon Mall before there was a mall, and that really is the thread that I'm going to try to unravel for you today. That corner of Charlotte, right down the street from where Lee's Sandwiches and Cafe now sits, is a very historic, important corner, a crossroads for the history of the city. So most people that are stuck in traffic in this very busy commercial corridor do not think anything about this. Less than a mile down on North Tryon Street is historic Rosedale, and this is a historic building and property that still exists, although there isn't much property left. I mean, that was part of the original urbanization of this area, was the Rosedale plantation family selling off bit by bit of their land to stay in the house. And you heard me right. It is a plantation right in the middle, about 15 minutes from the center city of Charlotte, and right around the corner from Noda is an 1815 cotton plantation. It is not a big sweeping plantation like you might think of in the Black Belt of Alabama, Mississippi, or definitely not like what you can see in the South Carolina Low Country, but it was a cotton plantation nonetheless, and Charlotte was a plantation, was part of the plantation system, and there was a lot of cotton grown in the area. Some of the prominent families of the area are connected to historic Rosedale. Now, catty corner from the Compare Foods and the Asian Corner Mall that is sitting awaiting demolition is Sugar Creek Presbyterian Church. If you look up there, if you're sitting at the light at Sugar Creek and North Tryon, you can see a little tiny brick building. That's from 1837 and was a boys' school, is on the historic register of Mecklenburg County. So that's right there. And then let's get to the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds were called the Southern States Fairgrounds. They really existed. This was a massive complex. It had a dirt track where motorcycles and cars raced. So Richard Petty's dad apparently raced there. There was a lake in the middle of the racetrack. There were exhibition buildings. There were pageants there. And it closed when Charlotte Motor Speedway opened in the 60s. And then we are on the edge of Noda, North Davidson, which was the Mill District. So I have given you a lot of information about this one corner, and it is now going through another immense change with light rail coming to it. And Lee's Sandwiches and Cafe is sitting right there, right on Sugar Creek, right near the intersection of Sugar Creek and North Tryon. So I know a lot about Charlotte history because I'm fourth generation Charlottean, of course, but also because I have written 2 books, one of which is still in print about Charlotte. I taught at UNC Charlotte. I was involved in volunteering for historic preservation causes in the early to late 90s in Charlotte in a completely different life. And yeah, that book that's still in print, it's called Wicked Charlotte, and it's a way to get some Charlotte history through the lens of folklore, not recipes, but ghost stories. So anyway, that's my Charlotte history lesson today. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it also makes you hungry for a Bahn Mi. Until next time, I'll be right here.
You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you gonna eat all that?